In this episode, we are going to use models created in the previous video in order to display data which they represent within our form. So let's open our index.php, and before the doc type declaration, let's start with the opening and then closing PHP tag. And in between, we are going to start with require. We're going to require the autoloader, so bootstrap and then autoload.php. And after this, we are going to start with categories. Categories equals, and rather than instantiating the class separately, I'm just going to inline it. In other words, I'm going to use brackets, wrap the new statement with the class name within the brackets. This way we know that after the brackets we're going to have an instance of this class, and then we can call methods on it. So new category model, there we go, and then we can call the method directly on it. So category, yes, there we go, categories. Obviously this categories is highlighted here because this method physically doesn't exist on any of the models. Specifically on the category, obviously, because categories refer to the category class, and we are using this magic call method to basically redirect the call to this method to the all records method, which is part of our lookup model. As you may remember here, this call is triggered when we're trying to call the method on the instance of the class that does not exist, and we're obviously checking if the name that we've used, in this case it would be categories, does not equal the whatever is associated with the table property, in our case categories. If it does not equal categories, then in that case we're going to throw the error. Otherwise we're going to call this all records method, and this is what we exactly are trying to achieve here by calling this categories method on the category instance. And I'm going to import this class. Let's move it below the autoloader, and because that's not the only one we're going to be using here. So now what we can do is use this categories variable, which should represent the array of categories. And if we scroll down, we have this category section here, select. What I'm going to do is start with for each categories as category, and after, actually we're going to need this options, any category above this for each statement, because this one is always going to be there. And now in between, and let's just provide a closing curly bracket for the for each statement, and in between we are going to use option, and then we'll use on the new line, I'm going to use value equals, and we go for echo category ID, and then I'm closing the option, and in between I'm just going to use echo category and the property name. So if we now save it and preview it in the browser, if we go back to our search dev, obviously whatever virtual host you've set up for your project, refresh the page, and we get the error, syntax error, expected use, index.php on line 5. Let's go back, scroll up. Of course, I've forgotten the semicolon after the require statement. If we go back, refresh the page, and there we go. Categories are now all listed under the category dropdown. The next one is going to be author. So if we go back, I'm just going to duplicate this line and rename the class author, and we are going to be looking for authors. So there we go, and let's import this one as well. Let's just type it by hand. Use app model author, and let's put them in the same order as we are importing them. And rather than categories, it's going to be authors. And now we can use this array and go for the author here. For each, oops, again, I should have left this one before the for each statement. So for each, and let me just close the browser on the left so it looks a little better. You can see things a little bit clearer. For each authors as author, and we go for option value echo author ID, and in between echo author name. And again, we can go back and test it. And there we go. All authors are now displayed. Categories and authors are now filled in. Obviously, next one is year and language. We're going to leave year for now because year is generated slightly differently. So we're going to go for the language next. If we go back to the editor and back here, let's duplicate this one, languages. Language model, let's import it. There we go. Languages, scroll down, and there we go, languages. After any language, for each languages as language, and then option in between with the value of echo language ID, which is going to be sent later on to the URL as a get query, and in between again same thing, echo language name. Save it, preview in a browser, refresh, and there we go, all our languages are now displayed. Next one is going to be cover types, which are radio buttons. If we go back, let's scroll up to the top and name it covers. And let's import this one as well. So it's going to use model cover. There we go. We got all covers. Obviously, you might have noticed that obviously we calling all these methods, which we've created this, which we've used this magic method previously to generate these methods dynamically. However, if we were to make this protected all records method public, you could simply call all records on all these models without actually giving them any specific name. You can do it either way. If you want to have just all records for all of them, simply make this one public. Otherwise, just follow as we do here. Okay, so covers. Let's go down to our covers. Where do we have it? Languages. We have covers here. Okay, so covers. How are we going to tackle covers? Well, each cover needs to have different ID and the 4 attributes, but the name remains the same. Obviously, value will also be different. For any, we're going to keep it the way it is, so we're not going to change it at all, apart from one thing, which is going to be a sticky radio button later on. We don't do it yet. We will deal with this a little bit later on. But what I'm going to do is copy this entire block, this li section, and then I'm going to go for each covers as cover. And what I've copied, I'm just going to put in between this for each opening and closing bracket. Okay, and inside of this one, what I'm going to do is replace this 0 after the underscore for the 4 attribute, and the same for the ID. I'm going to replace them both with echo cover ID, so that each one is going to have a different ending, different number at the end, representing the ID. Obviously, that should be cover ID this way rather than underscore. And what I'm going to do next, do the same, use the cover ID for the value, and for the label I'm going to take cover name. And I think for the time being that should be enough. Let's just save it and preview it in a browser, refresh, and there we go. We've got hard, soft, and any. And the last thing is going to be available in, which is basically representing the locations at which the given book is available. So let's quickly duplicate this line, and it's going to be locations. location, and then locations. Let's import this class as well. There we go. And now we have these locations. If we scroll down to the locations section, available in, and there we go, we've got this location 1. So let's do the for each right before it. So for each locations as location, and then after the closing li tag, let's close the for each statement. Okay, here we're going to have the same situation as we had with the radio buttons. So ID and for attribute needs the number after the underscore replaced with the ID of the location. So echo location ID. And for the value, we're going to have the same thing. So we copy this echo statement here for the value. And for the option, this keyword, let's just replace it with the location name. And that's it for this one. If we save it, preview it in the browser, refresh, and there we go. We've got our locations listed. So that would be it in this video. In the next video, we are going to sort out this here drop-down menu.